Hey folks, welcome back to the Feature Crew. So it's been a while since we've had a big flagship model update, but in fact, we got two dropping at the same time today. We have Claude Opus 4.6 and GPT 5.3 Codex, and there's lots of discussion about how good they are for coding. So we thought we might as well make a video today comparing both of them in their own agentic coding harnesses to see how they fare against each other. So lots of benchmarks about how they're state of the art on multidiscipline reasoning, SweBench, and so on. We're doing a kind of revamp of all our tests because these models are getting so good. But for now, we're going to run through Planet and a few others and just see how they fare.
So we have Claude code loaded up here in terminal with Claude Opus 4.6 selected, and then we will make sure to turn on thinking. We're using the V2 of our Planet prompt. Since these are in agentic harnesses, it's very similar to our normal prompt. It's just asking for like a full React Node project instead of a single HTML file. Now, as always, we are looking for a procedurally generated planet, atmosphere, clouds, water, terrain, biomes, the whole deal. And because we're running it in an agentic harness and asking for a full project, we're going to be paying close attention to the sort of file structure it sets up and how it decides to break up the project.
And then here we are in Codex. We're using 5.3 Codex, and both of them will be running quote unquote locally, not in the cloud. So obviously they are not running the full models locally, but they will be running commands locally on our machines.
Yeah, and we're testing out the new Codex client here as well.
Yes. So this is the new Codex app. Pretty nice. I think it's something called Mac OS X support, question mark.
Yeah.
Regardless, we're running on Mac, so that works out great. We will let these both run now for a couple more minutes.
Okay, so we have our result from Claude code loaded up. It is definitely not the best we've seen.
No, very unfortunate.
I'm happy with the terrain. Like, I think it did good stuff with the terrain. The clouds aren't rotating with the planet, unfortunately, and there's like some weird interaction between the clouds and the lighting. It seems to be like opposite whatever went. I think it might be conflicts with the atmosphere shader and the cloud layer. But to give it credit, there's a distinct layer for the terrain, the water, the atmosphere, the clouds, which is something that models have struggled with in the past. I was able to get a slightly better result out of Claude out of Claude 4.6 one shot when I was testing earlier. So it's always a little unfortunate to see these regressions in an agentic harness where it supports longer term development better, but the initial results aren't as good. So we'll definitely give some feedback, and hopefully we can get kind of push it past its one shot result here. I'm excited to see what Codex did as like a point of comparison.
They did talk a lot about 4.6 being great at like big code bases. So maybe, the cold start problem is an issue.
And it costs like roughly $1, I think. I mean, I'll have to look into my API account, but this single prompt costs like about $1, which make your own judgment about if that was a good use of funds or not.
So here's the first generation from Codex.
This is definitely better.
I'd say it's better with respect to making a more realistic planet, right? The clouds are moving. They're still like very obviously low. I think the kind of noise here, like the terrain it's generated is better. The noise with respect to like it becoming just polar is very obvious. It looks like there's pinching at the poles here, but this at least looks more like a planet.
I mean, this kind of has the opposite issue from Claude, where the planet's not rotating, but the clouds are.
Yeah, the lighting doesn't look super good. Like
there's some glitchiness.
There's some glitchiness there. Both not state of the art in terms of one shot. I would have expected them to just knock this out the park. But again, could be a cold start, and we are doing it in a agentic harness, so it might be taking the prompt very literally and then being like, I have just completed the minimum set that I think you said from the prompt. So, okay, so I think the most interesting thing is going to see how they develop from here. So we're going to give both of them images, both of them some additional prompts to see if they can improve their initial response. So we'll start with Claude. So let's switch back over to that.
All right. So I have some feedback queued up for Claude here. I've attached an image. It's not rendering in Terminal because Terminal doesn't support image rendering, but the image is attached. And then we also have just some general feedback about improving the cloud and atmosphere shaders, and particularly their overlap and how they respond to the rotation of the planet and the movement of the light. We also are asking for some upgrades to the terrain itself so that the overall planet looks more realistic, like a real planet, which I think Codex was a little bit better at on this last turn. So I'll send off this feedback, and then we can check out what Dylan is sending off to Codex.
We're about to send off a prompt. We want it to fix the rotation. We want to improve the light rendering, and I wanted to do a visual pass. So we'll send this off. It's kind of nice having it as a app instead of it being terminal. So you can see the image rendering and so on. So that is nice. So we can see it thinking as well. So let's see how they both do.
Okay, so we have our response back from Claude Code. It's claiming atmosphere was the biggest issue. clouds, water, terrain changes. So let's load it up and take a look at what it did. Okay, it did greatly improve the atmosphere.
The cloud coverage is still a lot.
Yeah, it's still a lot, and we didn't ask for a slider to control it. But I want to note that the clouds are now rotating with the planet.
Yep.
So that issue is fixed.
Yep. I like how the little time of day slider is slowly ticking over as well. We can see the light kind of moving forward.
I do like what it did with the terrain. It made the terrain more interesting, even though you can kind of see these like latitude bands where it switches the biomes very clearly. There was a similar thing visible on Codex's response, and while it is a little bit like more cartoony, I would say, with how it did the colors and the blending, at least it followed our feedback. So now you can see like clear mountain ranges and then more flatlands. The thing I'm most happy about is that there is this sort of like rally scattering thing going on with the atmosphere, where you get the red theoretically at the points where the light is making the longest path through the atmosphere. But I think there's some heuristic going on because it doesn't look totally realistic.
Okay, let's switch over to Codex 5.3 and see how it's done. Here it is. So obviously the rotation speed is now working. We can see the planet rotate. It has done a visual pass. The poles are still pinched, so it definitely didn't fix that, but it did smooth the kind of latitude layers out, which I like. The water looks kind of realistic, looks like it's flowing. We can see these kind of really obvious like noise artifacts here, but otherwise, again, also not a bad well with the exception of the pinch.
Yeah, I think when you like visually zoom out, this one looks better.
Yeah,
something about the lighting and maybe it's just the fact that it's not completely covered by clouds.
Yeah,
but I liked what Claude did with the actual terrain noise better. I thought after the second pass, like I could see distinct mountain ranges and flatlands, whereas like a lot of this terrain is still just like bumpy town. So I think now we're seeing that like they're both able to set up the foundations pretty well with some small variances. And like they have different strengths, but now that they both have a foundation, we want to push them on challenge mode plus, even get some really hard tasks that will make them run for longer. So we have our feedback queued up. This is our normal challenge mode plus an additional twist. We're asking for first person controls, props on the planet, reasonable scale between the planet, the player, the props, and sort of a resource collection gameplay loop, including crafting. And then I'm also making this additional ask for level of detail system on the planets and the props, and then extensible implementation in the spirit of these are agents that can work in a larger code base and do longer running tasks. Kind of want to give it the idea that the implementation it makes needs to be professional and extensible as we make more additions. So I'll get this sent off, and then we will send the exact same feedback to Codex.
This is the exact same prompt, and we have sent that off in the same thread to Codex. Hopefully this now allows them to kind of differentiate themselves a bit with a complex prompt. I assume these are going to run for like on the magnitude of like 5 minutes. So we'll be back very soon.
Claude is still running here. It's been running for, I mean, what, Dylan? 10,
15
minutes. Codex came back more quickly. The Opus models are also factors more expensive. While it has been running and doing some impressive things, I mean, we'll see once it finally loads the final result. Nearing $10 in API credits burned on 3 prompts. OpenAI is much more willing to just like let power users power use, even if they're losing money. Whereas Anthropic is much more make sure we're profitable train, which, I mean, hey, there's business arguments to which is better.
So we were waiting to show Claude first, just because we're going kind of Claude then Codex. So we're going to render up. It looks like it should be ready. Okay.
Planet Explorer, a procedurally generated world awaits. Let's land on the planet.
Whoa.
Okay.
Well,
so for my first. Okay. if we ignore the spiky
is that
mess,
all large rock?
There's definitely some sort of
like LED sort of thing going on.
Yeah, there's a LOD thing going on. It's not consistent. I mean, it's running at a pretty smooth frame rate, so I'm impressed about that. The controls are inverted, I'll note that. You can see the seams between the like terrain LOD groups, which is not great. Like, it's not great to see the trees sort of disappearing and reappearing in different spots. To be fair, this is like by far the most difficult challenge mode we've ever done.
Yep.
And so to see it get something that runs at a decent frame rate, even if it is a little bit
sketch.
I have faith that as we continue to iterate with this, like, we'll get something better out of it in the inventory. Whoa.
We're starting to see the light. I'm assuming like you're on the other side of the planet. That's making it a bit more easy to see.
I mean, I want to be clear that this is incredible. This is
by far the best we've seen. I'd say almost like the foundation that's here, like one big prompt. It's pretty impressive. Like I'm seeing this and I'm like, oh, I can see where this goes from here. Yeah. But even compared
to other
the
spikiness is all rocks, actually. It looks like the terrain is fine and the rocks are messed up.
Like
the props are only on land. Like, even though it lost the actual water layer,
the
props are only generating on land. M just goes to sky view, I guess.
Land on planet.
Okay, and it does maintain my inventory. And wow, like, look at that reloading the planet. I mean, okay, like, this is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Even though we have the clouds at like sort of player height, like the trees are going through the clouds. Yeah.
Some of these implementations, like if on the live stream when we did Kimi K2.5, it kind of drops the realization that it's a planet generation sim first. So it didn't have like atmosphere and stuff like that. So credit Opus 4.6 that it's tried to remember that. It's still got atmosphere, as Jacob mentioned. We might have like lost certain things like water, but it's kind of maintaining that, it is a planet sort of thing.
I'm very excited now to see what GPT did. I mean, and like, we should note that GPT came back in less than half the time.
Yep.
For, I would imagine, an even smaller fraction of the cost. With that in mind, let's check out the Codex response.
So this is the Codex implementation. We're going to run on up. And you can collect stuff, but this is now very similar to what we saw in previous implementations, right? Like, it's kind of like, it seems to have maintained that it's a planet. I think it's done some of the LOD stuff. I mean, press E to collect rock. That seems like it works. C to craft. I guess this is up here. Do we have like a inventory? I'm not sure. I guess I see the inventory up the top, but no hotbar, right? So maybe I can go collect more wood. Collect tree. Okay, so I've got wood. So can I make planks? If I grab my cursor, I make planks up here.
Okay. We don't have the same super high density props, which was an issue on the Claude side. I mean, it was impressive that it was able to keep it running at a good frame rate with that many props in this. So I think in our feedback round, we can ask for more props on the Codex side, but the fact that all the props are sort of consistent and it maintained like the water layer. Okay. Yeah. It's, I think there are also issues with the atmosphere here.
Yeah.
But Codex was able to maintain the water layer, which is good. It's lacking the hotbar that we saw on the Claude side, which was a nice level of polish. It's unclear to me if the terrain LOD was implemented correctly.
Yeah, like I remember seeing something, like when I looked really far away, I could kind of get the trees to LOD out, but do you see how like it changes from like a cone to like a tree-esque thing?
Claude got more ambitious and made way more mistakes.
Yep.
Is what I would, is my take.
Yep.
We were talking a little bit off camera. We were arguing about like what the state is. And I think to really compare these, we need to give them another round of feedback. Yeah. Bigger visual glitches that like I personally think are going to be harder to fix on the Claude side, but it was more ambitious and got some more core gameplay features in. So we'll give relevant feedback to each agent. All right. So we've got the feedback set up. I just reloaded my credits. We blazed past $10 on this. The feedback, I sent it an image, and basically the main things we're asking for is like a fix to the rocks and the general prop density and variety problem, as well as fixes to the weird things it did to the water and atmosphere and cloud layer. So that's both like scaling and then also the fact that we kind of lost the water layer. We'll send that off.
Now in Codex, we have a slightly different prompt. We're giving it an image as well, and we want it to take an overall pass at the visual fidelity. We want to add a lot more props, make the game look more interesting, real, include a hotbar and separate inventory systems. And we're looking to try and add more crafting progression gameplay loops, kind of based on what I thought it could do. So I'll go ahead and send that off.
Okay, so we have a response here from Claude. It claims to have fixed the rock generation, prop density, the LOD gaps, and the water layer, as well as the atmosphere and cloud height. So let's jump in and see what it was able to do. It seems to have responded to the density a little bit. This is a more reasonable prop density. It still has this issue where the props are popping in and out at different locations, and it still has this critical issue with the rocks where like the meshes are not continuous.
Yeah.
It did fix the cloud height.
Yeah, honestly.
So now the clouds are above.
The cloud is kind of sick. This seems like to be one of the first I've actually seen clouds in the first person challenge mode that actually look really good.
It did not fix the gaps in the terrain. It claimed to make a lot of fixes that it did not fix.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
That's interesting. And it didn't run for as long, right? Like, although we gave it a whole lot of things to fix, it seemed to kind of finish a lot faster.
And now we're like in the far lands. This was a regression. Now it's putting props on the water and did not restore the water layer.
Oh, yeah.
This was a real mixed bag this round from Claude.
Yeah. The second iteration was a little bit rough. It's picked up a few things, but kind of worrying didn't pick up others. And there's no reason why. It just burned $10 of tokens basically in one go. So it could have feasibly just burnt more tokens if it needed to.
Right.
5.3 Codex is still running. I think it's just starting to end now. But so 5.3 Codex ran for a lot longer this time, given a few things to fix. So what do you think of this implementation?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it didn't get, like, it, as you said, it didn't keep running to try to fix the problems that like were clear. It's also like the water implementation is just all wrong.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of hoping that it would, like, given a very direct prompt to address that, I thought maybe it would spend some more time on that.
So here we are in the 5.3 implementation. Interesting. So the first thing, it talked about scale, and it looks like it's made the rocks way smaller. The trees look really skinny now. I mean, technically the scale is more correct for the stones. The trees are very small.
I don't know what happened there.
Shift for sprint still works. 2, 3, I can kind of navigate through this. I'm unfortunately struggling to gather. Like, I'm not able to click E to collect. So, click stumps.
What's that?
It collected a
stump. That stump was the right size.
Yep, that was looking good. There's another stump. Okay. This is different. Yeah, like, there's nothing on the hotbar.
Like, you can select. Yeah.
It's interactable in the sense that you can click between these, different slots, but that's it. I guess.
I mean, to be fair, you might be able to follow its.
Well, let's have a look now. If I, we have fiber, so I should be able to craft a rope. Okay, so that works. I was thinking I do need a pickaxe to then collect stone, but I can't collect stone without.
I liked Claude's UI better because it like gave you feedback. Whether you had the resources or not to craft something.
Yeah. Well, at least we saw that the crafting did work. Yeah, I'm just not able to click that.
This is still a far more consistent planet.
Yeah. Like,
right, there aren't gaps in the terrain. The water is not totally screwed up.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is still there.
Oh, we can even see, are these some kind of icicle things?
It's kind of funny that the models choose the same thing, right? Like,
yeah.
It was like, okay, trees, rocks, and then next is crystal, right? And then in terms of crafting, they both had campfire, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunate that we can't fully test out all the crafting. I'm trying, but yeah, so it's kind of surprising. Like when we said add a lot more props, didn't really increase the density that much. I guess it kind of added crystals and stumps and stuff like that, but it's still not very realistic in that regard. So a little bit surprising that they didn't iterate as much as I would have expected them to, right? Like,
given the feedback,
right? Because like the first time, at least for Claude Opus 4.6, was like, took a long time. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to keep going. But with this feedback, it was like lazy in a sense, right? Like this is the minimum implementation that I can do for this. Yeah, I don't know. Promising that they're starting to move forward, and we're trying to make more interesting tests like this to start to push them to really start to see like, oh, we can see one starting to kind of get on that exponential and really like crack ahead. I think the next tier is going to be how far can they push this challenge mode, and we'll hopefully start to see more releases this year that start to really push forward and be like, boom. Jacob, anything to add before we continue?
Yeah, just that maybe when we do these tests in the future, we should ask for like debug gizmos, which would help. Because I'm like still not convinced it didn't do LOD. Like we haven't really given it the college try on that, but there's no real way to do it without like going and asking for like fly mode or something, right?
Yeah.
Regular viewers of the channel know that one of our other favorite coding tests, in addition to the planet, is our city simulation test. And so today, because these models have gotten so far, albeit not perfectly, but we're testing their long-running agentic capabilities, we wanted to take the planet test and the city test and kind of put them together. So we have a decent foundation on both the Claude and Codex side here for the planet, and we're going to ask them to do our normal city simulation prompt, basically, with a few tweaks, on the planet. Yep. So we're asking them to add procedural simulated cities onto the planets. Okay, so we have the prompt here. We are giving it some context at the top that it's adding to a pre-existing planet foundation that's implemented with 3JS and simplex noise. And we are asking for procedurally generated cities with different districts, as well as simulation dynamics and good visuals, interactability, performance and scalability. and some optional advanced features. So without too much diving into the details of the prompt, we kind of just want to see what they're able to do. This is a really far challenge mode, and they already have sort of lot and inventory and props. And so we're hoping that it integrates the city with those existing systems, and we'll kind of see with this general setup how the different models handle. Okay, so we have the prompt pasted in Claude Code, and we're going to send it off. Dylan is doing the same in Codex, and we'll come back when they've finished.
And just to level set, it's already very impressive what they've done. Like both 5.3 and 4.6. I don't know if I'd say this is like a step change. Just already seeing that like in the agentic harnesses, they're starting to do better and better things. So here we are back in Codex. It worked for about 8 minutes. It's kind of impressive. And then it said, hey, I've now implemented a full planet integrated procedural city system and wired it into your existing game loop.
Big claims.
Big claims. Very big claims. I do like it's kind of got references. So basically like it's done a good job of like breaking everything up and so on. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the Codex implementation now. So this is it after it said it's done its thing. Oh,
I see a city.
We can see cities. Okay.
The buildings seem to be like
kind of.
I don't know exactly how it's.
Are these cars? They're really messed up cars, but and they just kind of drive.
How's the frame rate on your side?
The frame rate is good on my side. Maybe the stream is just bad. Oh my goodness! I think these are little.
Oh, these are the people.
The little.
Wait, and they're following the terrain.
It's kind of messed up in terms of like it's following the terrain in that it's kind of like what do you call it, like normal to the terrain, which is why it's on
terrain,
weird angles. But you can see it's at least trying to respect it in that sense.
Are those supposed to be roads? Actually, those are supposed to be the roads. I think.
Yeah. Well, let's get away from the city. Yeah, those are the roads, right? Because now that we're over here.
So while, I mean, it might seem silly that we're giving this positive reaction when there's like an absolute mess of a city, but this is the first time we've done this kind of test, like at this scale, right? And I was expecting, maybe some buildings, but the fact that it has the more difficult parts of the prompt, the cars, the little balls that are supposed to be NPCs, and that they're actually following the terrain. That's not an easy thing to do. We haven't looked into the implementation, so it's not clear if it's like nav meshes or if it's just using some simple heuristic. But regardless, this is pretty impressive. The buildings don't seem to have collisions.
No, they don't. A
little unfortunate. I wanted to see. We didn't ask for it.
I forced growth in city, and I can kind of see something is growing.
Oh,
like do you see how I think the population and the buildings are going up? That's kind of cool.
That's pretty awesome.
It's starting to bloom into something amazing. Right. And that's why we want to start pushing this to see like exactly how far can they maintain context and add on to it. So it's done really well at keeping the fact that it's a planet and adding these things. It's like the foundation is starting to get there, right? It can actually understand.
And to be fair, if we have like a harness where, I mean, this was kind of going from scratch. Yes, it was using 3JS. Yes, it was using a physics library. Give a harness that's got like a little bit more control and takes a little bit of the reasoning off the LLM, like plugging my own product, Vibeworlds, Vibeworlds.ai here, where you can ask for like a world with a text prompt. That sort of system, I would hope, might perform a little bit better on something like this. Not necessarily with the planet, as we saw in the Vibeworlds reveal video, but like on the complexity of a city sort of thing. Like if they're able to put a city that looks as good as our best city simulation test on a planet that looks as good as our best planet test, we're really
cooking. Great first attempt. Again, as we said, like this is very impressive, even if it looks a little wacky. They're certainly making progress.
Okay, so switching over to Claude now, maybe the massive intelligence of the larger Opus model that comes along with the larger cost will give us a better result. Before we check out the actual result, I'm curious at type of burn we had on the API here. So the city prompt itself, just the last prompt, was $8.
Yeah.
Right? So we are past the point where through the 5 prompts we've run through Opus, we've exceeded the monthly cost for the subscription that is backing the Codex side.
Codex 5.3, yeah. Because you get this with the Codex app, what you get with a Plus subscription. So all you need is a $20.
And so,
yeah.
And the reason that we didn't run this on a Claude subscription, although on the Claude $20 subscription, you get a certain amount of Claude code usage, the reason we didn't run it is because we were going to exceed those limits on the first prompt.
Yeah.
And so the cost differential here is like really important to understand. Like we are on one hand trying to figure out what is the best model harness setup. And on the other hand, it's like, okay, once we have that figured out, like what's the relative cost differential? And like, is it worth it to go to the best versus going to a better cost to value ratio, right?
Yep.
So with all of that said, let's take a look at Claude's response here. Okay.
That looked...
Okay, I'm already feeling a better response.
Yeah. I couldn't...
Wow.
Just we saw it better with the light, but I was like, wow. It's actually added
wait, should I go to the...
Let's go to the light
try
side,
to find... So we're like right on the border of day-night here. And we have a city significantly better than the Codex version.
Yep.
I think like we have the buildings are correctly aligned with gravity instead of being normal to the terrain.
Yep.
And then it does look like the cars are actually going in between the buildings.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I'm trying to...
find one that
it does get
collides with a building. Look at them go.
Yeah. They're definitely going through each other, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but in the past we've always had like city test isolated. We've always had problems with the cars just going through buildings, and I'm not seeing that happen here. We're also seeing, as I mentioned, we're on the edge of day-night, so we're seeing the day-night cycle take place in these sort of pixelated shadows.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. They've got like the kind of like downtown there with the bigger skyscrapers. I mean, look, we don't see the people, and there's no like population. So the one thing I'll give Codex is that it tried to take the more like city sim of like, hey, like there's so much population, you can grow the city and so on. Whereas I think Opus has done a much better job making it realistic, right? Like this is a city that exists on the planet, right? With the cars.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem here is that like the buildings are one person tall, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's a lot.
There's no, again, there's like no clear winner here. Just in terms of like the raw visual, Claude definitely wins here. And then I'm really impressed by the cars
weaving between the buildings,
avoiding the buildings.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Here we go.
Seeing this sun,
the sun come up. My big problem is that like it totally lost the scale, which was a little bit better on the Codex side. It attempted these like building vertex shaders to give it this sort of like it's supposed to be windows maybe.
Yep.
On the sides of the buildings. Now it didn't do so well at that. I mean, this also might just be like a weird lighting artifact. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
But this is showing the future, right?
Yep.
Like we are now in the world where frontier models with a good harness can start to push against not just our planet test, not just our old planet test challenge mode, but our planet test in first person with the city test lumped in, and maybe in the future we lump in the dungeon test as well, right? And when we have like a full procedurally generated sort of universe, I mean, that's what we're going for, right? Like when the models can generate a universe, right? Well, when is that?
Yep.
And so the fact that we are seeing like noticeable progress to that from both the Claude side and the Codex side, very impressive to me.
Absolutely. Well, very promising results. Even just seeing this, like kind of the sunset come through. Now, these are coding focused models. So we bias towards coding and putting a comparison out for the day of the release, but expect us to do some more, some other like broad challenges, maybe like agentic reasoning, business reasoning, hopefully next week as we get a feel for these models. But we really want to push them in the coding aspect first. So let us know in the comments if there's any prompts you want us to run, any tests you want us to run, if you've had any success with these models. Otherwise, you can catch us on the live stream where we'll probably be playing around with these a little bit further. But very exciting stuff. And we're hoping for further releases. You know, this is 5.3 Codex, but we expect 5.3 to be coming out soon as well. So fingers crossed for lots of new releases coming soon. And we will definitely be covering these, and hopefully with our new range of tests, look out for that as well.
We are trying to like up level the tests on the channel. So part of that will be combining some of our existing tests into the mega coding tests and using coding agents. But if you have requests, advice on what we should test, how we should be looking at these next generation models, definitely let us know in the comments. Again, as Dylan said, the live stream will be Friday at 30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. So definitely check that out if you're interested, and we'll be running your prompts on these models and talking about the latest news in AI. So super exciting stuff, and we're starting to get used to live streaming. So feedback on this, feedback on the live stream. You know, we're always constantly trying to make the channel better. So let us know what you want to see.
Awesome. Thank you, folks.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye-bye.